get some cameras. And I say, I'm trying to protect myself. I'm not trying to shoot a porno.
Exactly.
Thank you for the call, sir. We have 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC. And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang has the day off. He'll be back with us on Monday. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and host of the Howard Jarvis Radio Show, which airs Tuesday nights on KABC. You can find him online at hjta.org, and you can follow him on X at Jon Coupal. Jon Coupal, welcome.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So yesterday we played a report from a station in the Central Valley about the bullet train that, of course, was supposed to be completed a long time ago, and now we have some track that was laid from nowhere to nowhere, and they announced that it will take even longer to complete that stretch of railway from nowhere to nowhere, beyond the estimates, the revised estimates that they have recently given us of 2033. Now it's not going to be done in 2033. It's going to take even more time than that. And they were interviewing people who were associated with the railroad, and they said, well, don't look at it that way. Don't look at it like it's a failure. It's a huge success because look at all the jobs that it's produced. Look at all the people that it's employed. It doesn't matter that the train is not operational. It's basically a jobs program. And I thought to myself, these people don't get it and they're hopeless. I don't think they're ever going to get it. Your thoughts?
Well, during the Depression, I think there's rumors that the Great Depression in the 30s is that they pay people to dig a hole and then pay other people to fill it back up. If you want if you want a jobs program, you can just give people the money. This is you've touched on the subject that is very aggravating to myself and my organization, because I don't know, John, whether you recall, but before the high-speed rail bond was even voted on, we started looking at it and we were saying, well, where is the study to conclude that it's even a viable program? And there wasn't any. So we went out and we worked with the very good transportation experts with the Reason Foundation, and we published with their expertise something called the due diligence report. And they concluded even before the election that the high-speed rail project for the state of California was not viable. That does not mean that all high-speed rail projects were not viable. China, Japan, Europe, even in the United States, they have some high-speed rail programs. You could put one on the Acela corridor on the East Coast. That pencils out. But from L.A. to San Francisco would never pan out and will never pan out. So the project was doomed from the very beginning. And every prediction we've made in the last 12 years about the high-speed rail project has come true. It is recognized as the international community has concluded that the California high-speed rail project is the number one boondoggle on the face of the planet. The sooner we pull the plug, the better. What do we do with all those concrete stanchions in the Central Valley? Let them remain as a testament to government stupidity, because this project is a failed project. The good news is, number one, it wasn't just our study, but if you look at the LIO studies on the high-speed rail project in the California State Auditor reports, they've all been scathing, that there's no accountability, no oversight. And now, finally, we have DOGE coming in at the federal level, and they're saying, time out. If you want any more federal money, we're going to at least look at this. I would be willing to bet right now, John, that I'm guessing it's a near certainty the federal government will not only stop federal funding of California's high-speed rail project, but will attempt to claw back, I believe it's like $4.2 billion. And if they did that, that's a great thing. We need more focus on this project. It's not like we don't have transportation projects that need money. And to all the union workers who are working on this, I understand they are looking out for their own best interests. I do not blame them one bit. However, I would suggest to them, would you want to work on a project that's going to be known as an abject failure, or would you rather be working on a project that actually provides transportation to California citizens? If I were a construction worker, I would not want to wake up every morning and go work on a project that I knew was a joke. And we have roads that need to be built. We have infrastructure. We have dams and reservoirs that need to be built. This is the biggest waste of infrastructure dollars we've ever seen. And one day I'll tell you how I really feel.
How much of the problem, though, is that they don't regard this as a failure? Gavin Newsom recently had a press conference where he talked about high-speed rail like it was some great accomplishment. Jerry Brown, who was the one that sold us on this, isn't running around with his hair on fire, or at least what's left of it, saying, oh, my God, this is not what we promised. This is not what we were supposed to do. There's a majority in Sacramento in the legislature that thinks that high-speed rail is peachy keen. They're going to keep repeating these mistakes over and over and over again if they refuse to learn from them.
Well, until the rest of the spending lobby, like the education lobby and the healthcare industry, sooner or later, as you know, there's rumors that we could be on the edge of a recession or at least a slowdown. California's got long-term budget problems. I don't care about what they talk about day to day, how much money we've got in the bank. The structural problem we have in California budgeting is real, and sooner or later the cows are going to come home to roost. And there's going to be some decisions. And I believe it's not going to be conservatives that bring down high-speed rail. I believe it will be a combination of conservatives and other elements of the spending lobby, healthcare, education. They're going to look at that money, and they're going to and I've already begun to see this a little bit. Remember, there was I don't know whether you recall Senator Quentin Kopp. He was a independent senator from San Francisco, and he was a chairman of the High Speed Rail Authority. And I have worked with Quentin. He and I were co-counsel on some legal cases together. Very smart man. But he and I went hammer and tong over high-speed rail. Later, he recognized what a joke it was, and in some of the litigation trying to stop the high-speed rail project, as a former chair of the High-Speed Rail Authority, he wrote a scathing 40-page declaration entered into the court record about how they lied to us over and over again. So, you know, we just have to continue to build up the drumbeat of why this project needs to be terminated today. It needs to be killed today.
We're speaking with Jon Coupal, the president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. You can get him online at hjta.org. Recently, the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, who was long rumored to be a potential candidate for governor here in California, announced that he would not be running for governor. Instead, he's going to run for re-election as Attorney General. He's eligible to serve one more term before he's termed out. He said in a statement that the reason that he is doing that is not because he doesn't want to be governor. He does. He thinks that Kamala Harris is going to jump into that race and clear the field, and if so, would be a heavy favorite to be the next governor of California. Kamala Harris is someone who's never really been engaged in state issues. When she was running for Attorney General, when she was running for U.S. Senate, Vice President, she focused on abortion. She focused on Donald Trump. She focused on subjects like those. Never really got into the details of the California budget, never really had any ideas about what to do about our insurance crisis, the homeless crisis, those sorts of things. What do you think a governor Kamala Harris would look like? Do you think she could potentially be even worse than Gavin Newsom?
Well, when you talk about disengaged politicians and people who don't know public policy, you've just described the majority party in Sacramento. I mean, there are a few Democrats who are policy experts, and they characterize themselves as moderate Democrats, which is we can debate about that. But the problem in California is that there's Democratic leadership in this state has dropped the ball and not focusing on the things that matter. And I believe that's the reason why we picked up 2 state legislative seats. I think that's why the 2 Republicans that ran on Tuesday cleared the field and don't even have to face a primary. That was Tony Strickland and I think it was Stan Ellis. I sense there's a shift, and also remember how badly we trashed Proposition 5 that sought to reduce the 2/3 vote for local general obligation bonds. We were outspent 10-1. We had radio stations up and down California, but we could not match their money, and we still beat it by 10 points. So I believe. Maybe I'm a little bit of an optimist. I'm generally kind of cynical, but last election cycle was not too bad. And I do believe that the Republicans are trying to – and by the way, the Jarvis Association, we're nonpartisan. I've had my issue with Republicans as well as Democrats. But I do believe the Republicans have made some modest steps in improving their reputation among California voters. They got a long way to go. It's very difficult to run for statewide office with the R beside your name. But I do sense that given what's going on in the national level and the fact that we're seeing a little bit of change in the wind here in California, that I would not count out the Republicans or conservatives generally. As to Kamala Harris, she is a horrible candidate. I mean, if you've ever seen the unedited tape from NBC, remember how they washed that tape to make it look as though she was actually thinking about her answers. It's cringeworthy. Now, if they can keep Kamala away from the cameras and get her in situations where she doesn't have to answer serious questions, then Bonta might be right. She might be able to clear the field. The question is, can the Republicans come up with someone who can articulate a positive, not just a negative vision, but a positive vision for California and honing in on the issues that really concern Californians: cost of living, housing, crime, homelessness. If you have somebody who's that good, that articulate, and you put them side by side with Kamala in a debate, I think you could change some minds. Enough for a Republican to win? I don't know, but we'll see how it all unfolds.
I'll tell you, I know this may make me sound like Pollyanna, but I don't necessarily think she's a lock if she makes it on the November ballot. And I say that because you look at the coalition of people that are irritated with her right now. Of course, Republicans don't like her. They don't like her politics. But there are partisan Democrats I know who resent her for losing the election to Donald Trump. They thought she was a very poor candidate. They're upset that they didn't have some kind of abbreviated primary at the Democratic convention where they could have ended up with a stronger candidate. They blame her. They blame Joe Biden. They're very angry. I have friends who are Democrats who are judges here in California, and they feel like they'll be shut out of the conversation if she is the nominee. If they're looking for a promotion, they're looking to advance their careers, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to go through 54 layers of people before you get to her, which means she's not going to return the phone call. If it's one of these state politicians, you can get a phone call return. But for the former vice president, no way. You're going to have no access to her. And many of these Democratic Party social networks aren't going to have access to her as well. And then you have the resentment from the electeds. If you're Tony Atkins, if you are Tony Thurmond, if you're any of the Tonys, actually, Antonio Villaraigosa, and you're one of these mere mortal Democratic politicians, and you keep getting termed out from job to job, and you're looking to move up the food chain, and some Democratic celebrity who doesn't need the job just takes it from you because she thinks it will help build her resume or build up her Wikipedia page and take some of the sting off of losing the presidential race, but doesn't really want the job, doesn't really have any ideas in terms of how she would use the power to make California better. Those people are going to end up hating her guts because they'll regard her as taking something that belongs to them.
Yeah, I think that's right. And your perception of the anger on the Democratic side, I mean, look at people like James Carville. I mean, he's an old-style Democrat. He's as partisan as you get. But in some of the videos that he issued right after the election, he excoriates the Democrat. He excoriates her. He excoriates Joe Biden. He uses some very colorful language that is not FCC compliant that about the whole situation. So yes, I do think, although this is going to shock you, the Democrats don't invite me to their cocktail parties, so I don't know about their internal communications. From our side, the Republicans can speculate all they want about what's going on the Democrat side. I would highly recommend focusing in on policy. And not just policy, but finding the personnel who can articulate it in a positive, not negative way. Let me just point to one guy, for example, that ran and won in a heavily Democratic district, Jeff Gonzalez, down in the San Diego area. Businessman, Hispanic, former veteran, and he just talks positively. And I do believe that if Republicans can seize that mantle of being the party of positivity and solutions and real progress, not what they call progressive, but this is a great state, and it has so much potential. If we can tap into that for the electorate, I think we can do well.
I want to go back to a point that you made earlier because it's an important one that I don't understand, and maybe you can provide some insight for me. And that is that so many Democrats in Sacramento just don't have an interest in state issues. And it's something you see not just with Democrats in the state legislature, but people are running for water board and you get their mail and it tells you about their position on abortion. And you scratch your head and you go, what, are the fish having abortion? Why would someone for water board even regard that as a relevant issue? But that's what they care about. And it's clear that they don't give a damn about water. Look at the mayor of Los Angeles. Instead of making sure there was water in the reservoir, or at least that the fire department knew that there wasn't any water in the reservoir, she was in Africa going to an inauguration for a president in Ghana. It seems like so many of these elected officials that we have at various levels, the city level, the board level, the county level, state level, whatever, they have no interest in any of the subject matter that they actually have control over. And they have interest in national and international issues that don't pertain to their office at all. But that's what they care about. That's what they talk about. That's all they're interested in.
I agree with you. And however, when there comes an issue that touches their daily lives, the daily lives of individual people, then then party registration is meaningless. For example, during COVID, what was going on in the schools in Virginia, people openly revolted against school boards for the way that they treated the children and closed the schools and their woke ideology, and that wasn't Republicans in Northern Virginia. And the same is true with the trans issue. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but why were people so willing to embrace that issue rather than trying to protect girls' sports? And you look at issue after issue. The crime is the other one. This is why Prop 36 passed overwhelmingly, is because, as you say, the elected officials, local level, state level, they fought tooth and nail against Prop 36, and the people basically said, go pound sand. And this goes back, obviously, centuries, but for a more recent example, 1978 Proposition 13. The California legislature had numerous opportunities to address runaway property taxation, and they didn't do anything. And when Prop 13 was on the ballot in 1978, every organized group major corporations, education, labor, all the editorial boards were against it, and it passed by 66%. So what happens when there is this massive disconnect? You do see these revolts, and I think if you look at the occupant of the White House right now, it begins to make sense.
Jon Coupal, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. If you're not a member, it's something you should consider because they do a great job at keeping an eye on the politicians in Sacramento and how they keep trying to tax you and they keep trying to spend us into bankruptcy. You can get him online at hjta.org and follow him on X at John without the H Coupal. Jon Coupal, thanks so much for stopping by.
Take care, John. Bye-bye.
Right now it's time for KABC Dependable Traffic. It's the John Phillips Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, you want to continue listening after I sign off at 3, that's easy to do. All you have to do is take out your handy-dandy iPhone or smartphone, Droid, whatever it is that you use, and you can subscribe to the podcast edition of this program, and the episodes will download automatically to your phone. So anytime you have your phone in your possession, you can listen to the show. All right. I know it's the Fix California Hour, and we typically do local subjects, state subjects here. We did talk about those subjects with Jon Coupal the first half of this hour. I do have to say, today I am completely all consumed with Gene Hackman news. I could not believe the man is dead. Well, actually, he's 95. I can believe that. But the circumstances surrounding this particular death, they're very strange to me. They find him dead, the wife dead, one of the dogs dead, but 2 of the dogs still alive. Right now, I want to open up the phones at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. What in the living hell do you think happened to Gene Hackman, his wife, and his dead dog? Was it carbon monoxide poisoning? Was it murder-suicide? Who knows? Whenever people show up dead and the circumstances are strange, half the time I just assume that Southern California Edison killed them too. What do you think happened to Gene Hackman, his wife, and his dead dog? 800-222-5222. Oh, there's Edison at work again. 800-222-5222. Your calls, your theories, up next. But right now it's time for headlines. Want to sell your home because you're downsizing? Call Seller's Advantage. Want to sell a home you've inherited? Maybe you're one of Gene Hackman's heirs. Call Seller's Advantage. Want to sell your home and take advantage of your equity? Call Seller's Advantage. No matter what your reason is for selling, Seller's Advantage will make you a competitive cash offer and can close in as little as days or as long as you need. Don't worry about the condition of your home. You don't need to pay for costly repairs because they buy as is. Seller's Advantage has been buying homes for over 20 years, focusing on helping sellers get the highest offer possible without having to get it ready for the market, deal with agents, or pay commissions. They make selling easy and painless. They'll even offer you a $10,000 advance to help with moving and other expenses. If it's time to sell your home, call Seller's Advantage first for a no-obligation offer. Here's the number, 888-303-AS-IS, 888-303-AS-IS, 888-303-2747, and find them online at sellersadvantage.com. DRE number 1096165. It's the John Phillips Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. What happened to Gene Hackman, his wife, and his dog? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, John. I don't know if you heard, there was a report last night on late night radio that some people in Santa Fe actually had video on their phones of Gene Hackman and his wife and possibly one of the dogs going to Taco Bell. So I think I don't know if there's a connection, but it could be food poisoning.
Well, you're supposed to drop the chalupa. You're not supposed to drop dead. And usually, isn't it Chipotle that does that to people?
I think they're all the same.
I see. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Sam in Los Angeles. Sam, hello.
Hey, John, what's going on?
Hey there.
Hey, yeah, Sam, I'm glad I got you. But, John, I'm surprised you and nobody else mentioned. I looked at the news this morning about Gene Hackman, his own daughter, and you didn't mention either. It could have been like maybe like a gas leak, like accidental or something like that. Now, it said that his daughter from his first marriage mentioned something about the gas company. So what I'm saying, John, is, and I know you're a sharp guy, I'm surprised that nobody, you included, has mentioned anything about that. It could have been like like a gas leak. So in other words, accidental. I mean, to kill the dog, the wife. I mean, what is there? What is the big deal? I mean, what is the mystery other than maybe it could have been a gas leak, a carbon monoxide leak? And I'm surprised that you didn't mention that, John.
Well, with gas, wouldn't you smell it? If they showed up to the house and there was a real strong scent of gasoline, natural gas, you would be able to smell that.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. But what about carbon monoxide? Don't they
that
call
you can't
it,
smell?
Yeah, what they call it, the silent killer or something like that?
Let me tell you this. One time,
Okay.
a while back, after a few too many, I went to sleep and I had the fire pit on in the backyard. It wasn't lit, but the gas was still open. So I woke up the next morning and I went back there, and my entire backyard smelled like natural gas. If anyone lit a cigarette that morning, my house would have gone up like Hiroshima.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well, I didn't think about that, John, about the gas that you smelled. Okay, now, yeah, but I mean, so so what do you find that it's odd because both of them are dead plus one of the pets? I mean, what's the strange thing about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, couples die all the time, but do they typically die on the very same day along with the dog?
Other than murder-suicide, right?
Yeah, I guess that's possible.
Okay.
But I think they liked each other. I didn't.
More about it there.
That's not a couple that was known for fighting with each other. When that homeless man called his wife the C word, even at the age of 80, whatever, he put up his fists and
he gave
hit
him a
the
good
guy.
beat down. I remember that story, John, some years ago. Yeah, I remember that. He was walking down the street or something like that, right? Where they were out on a walk-in or somewhere or something like that.
Oh, yeah. How would you have handled that? Some bum calls your wife the C word. How would you have handled it?
John, that I don't know. Maybe that had to be something that I don't know. They say you're supposed to think before you react. I don't really know, John. I mean, do you just start throwing haymakers, as you would say, John, or what do you do?
I thought you were going to say,
I really don't know, John. To be honest, I don't know.
Depends on the day. Did she piss you off that day or not?
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I guess, John, this sounds like something you would say. You say, well, Bill, you made me mad this morning, so I'm going to let this guy have his way with you. I'm being a little silly now, John. But, yeah, so I don't really know. I don't know how I would handle that, though, John.
You're walking down the street. Some homeless guy shouts that out at your wife. You turn to her and you say, see, I told you to be nice.
Exactly. But the thing is on that, John, too, you might, some people might not want to engage a home. They might say, they're mental. If they're homeless, they got their mental and all this and that. So I think that's the individual's call. I guess everybody would handle that differently. Would you call the police? Well, I guess you can't call the police because the guy says something to your wife, called out a name. But I don't know. That's a tough one right there, John. I think I'd have to think about that one.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Sam in Los Angeles. Sam, hello. Okay. Let's go to Jonathan in Menifee. Jonathan, hello.
Hey, how's it going, John? How you doing, sir?
Good.
All right. I don't want to think about it, but, the Epstein list coming out today, I love Hackman. I love me some Gene, but I pray it's not linked. He's 90-some-odd years old, and he likes his privacy, so I don't know if he wanted that kind of heat coming down onto him. I hope it's not true, but, it's a theory.
Gene Hackman showing up to Jeffrey Epstein's island, huh? Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at those flight manifests.
Quick and the dead.
Right.
They found his wife's hands and feet mummified. It's all kind of weird. It sounds a little suspicious.
I saw that too, but do we actually believe that? He's 95 years old. Don't they look mummified just on a good day?
You know, my grandparents are still around and kicking, and sometimes I have to wonder if they're coughing up dust from time to time.
I saw Dan Rather on TV the other day. He was alive and well, but looked mummified.
Yeah, like I said, I just hope it's not coincidental. I hope it's nothing that's there. But, timing's everything. But also, it could have been that Taco Bell. That stuff will mess you up.
Thank you for the call, Sarah. Let's go to Karen in Yorba Linda. Karen, hello.
Hi, John. I think it's more of a simple explanation here. If you remember playing the clue game, I think it has to do with a series of things. I think she fell into that. I think that she was his caregiver. She died first, and then he went looking for her a couple of days and not knowing where she was. Then he went to look for her. He fell, and he died. And then the dog ate the pills and hid in the closet and died. Just like the clue game.
Quite a movie script.
Yeah.
You could be a criminal defense attorney. Do you know that?
No. That's an idea, though. But I like what the other people were saying. That made me laugh.
Yeah,
but I think it's a simple explanation, though.
That sounds very simple. Thank you for the call. What do you think happened to Gene Hackman, his wife and his dog? They're all dead, found at the same time. They say there's no foul play, but doesn't make sense to me. What say you? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up, but right now it's time for KABC Dependable Traffic. It's the John Phillips Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. 790 KABC welcomes VIB featuring Foreigner to the Canyon in Agoura Hills on March the 2nd. Tickets are on sale right now at AXS.com. That's AXS.com. All you have to do is use promo code KABC to claim your 2 for the price of 1 deal. However, if you're caller number 9 right now at 888-790-5222, that's 888-790-5222, you'll win a pair of tickets to the show. All of this furnished by our friends at the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing. It's the John Phillips Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the John Phillips Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Heather McDonald joins us at the top of the hour. Right now we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Steve in Cyprus. Steve, hello.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, what do dogs and old people have in common? They both like dog food, so it was obviously contaminated dog food from China.
So you think that the communist Chinese government, they were sitting around in a boardroom one day and they said, you know, we tried to kill Hackman with COVID. That didn't work. So why don't we try the old dog food trick?
Yeah, it was a theory.
Okay. Thank you for the call. That is one step removed from Taco Bell. That's 3 votes for Taco Bell. You notice that? Let's go to Jeff in Santa Clarita. Jeff, hello.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Love the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is common sense, Jeff, in Santa Clarita. Nothing spectacular. I'm thinking a faulty heater, carbon monoxide poisoning.
One caller mentioned it before. They do call that the silent killer, right?
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide sensors are one of the things that most people have in their house that require batteries, correct?
I believe that's true, yes.
I wonder if Hackman ran out of batteries in his remote control and took the batteries out of the carbon monoxide sensor so he could change the channel without getting up out of the chair.
That's definitely a possibility. Or the thing kept going off, so he just took it out.
Yeah, that's a possibility, too. If he did that, I'm sure he wished he hadn't.
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, great show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the call, Sarah. I've done that before. I'm not going to say that I'm proud of it, but I've done it. You need to change the channel. You need to turn the volume up, whatever the case may be, and you don't have any more batteries in your house. And you don't want to get in the car. You don't want to go down to the Rite Aid. I'm sure the batteries are behind the bulletproof glass along with the shampoo and everything else now. It takes time out of your schedule. You're watching a program, or you want to be watching something else. Change the channel. So what do? You get creative. You find something in your house that requires batteries that you don't find to be useful. How often does the carbon monoxide sensor go off? Not very often. So you say to yourself, that's unnecessary. I'll take the batteries from there. And then you do. You put them in the remote control. You forget about putting new batteries into the carbon monoxide sensor, and it just becomes a decoration, like the check engine light in your car. But you never know when you're going to need it. I'll say that. All right, we got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Heather McDonald joins us next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.